friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, we're going to be talking about salads. Salads are fascinating and they're quite versatile. We all have our favorites. And I'm going to tell you a little about the history of salads, and then we're going to talk about the main types and then some unusual ones. So salads stretch back many, many years. They've changed a lot through various cultures and food trends. So in ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Rome, there were already early forms of salads, which were simple mixes of raw vegetables like lettuce, onions, cucumbers, and then they would be dressed with vinegar, oil, or even fermented fish sauces. So the word salad comes from the Latin salata, meaning salted, because Romans often ate raw greens dressed in brine or salty dressings. Now, I find this very interesting because that's supposed to help a lot with digestion. The French often will add a green salad, like plain greens, in some olive oil with some salt in between courses to help with digestion. So they had it right back then. Then later, medieval times, the salads became more elaborate. Sometimes they would contain cold meat, pulled meat, fruit, nuts, even edible flowers and herbs. Then, as pilgrims came to the USA and people spread to different areas of the world and there was more trade, things such as tomatoes became popular, potatoes, though they weren't eaten raw, and peppers. And at that time, they were still seen as part of the upper class or the banquet style meals. They would be used as appetizers or as palate cleansers between courses. Then in Europe, in France, England, Italy, they began to become more artistic with their salads. So the artistic presentation, the composé of salad, these would include very interesting dressings, unusual things. The American salad that was popularized in the 1920s was the Caesar salad. The Caesar salad is made up of romaine lettuce, sometimes chopped, sometimes whole. There will be croutons. It'll be dressed with lemon juice, olive oil, and then they'll also add Dijon mustard, parmesan, etc. So the creamy dressing makes the Caesar salad, and then you add it to the lettuce, croutons, and parmesan. Very simple and very yummy. Then the Cobb salad also became popular in the USA. So it's like a garden salad. There'll be chopped salad greens, tomato, bacon, and chicken breast. So the meat, perhaps eggs, and then the avocado, sometimes blue cheese, and then a vinaigrette. So that's quite a comprehensive full meal salad that originated in the United States. And then the Waldorf salad also came from there, and that would be fruit and nuts. So generally there'd be apple with the walnuts, sometimes grapes, sometimes celery, and then dressed in a mayonnaise type dressing. Sometimes the ingredients will just be tossed in mayonnaise. Then modern salads, there's such a diversity between countries and influences from different places. So the tabbouleh from the Middle East, the som tum is a Thai green papaya salad. The panzanella is an Italian bread salad. And then quinoa salads, other superfood-based salads. So the panzanella, that's a fascinating one, is kind of also croutons, but basically they take stale bread and then they soak it instead of baking it. And then it'll have onions and tomatoes. It'll have cucumbers, sometimes basil, and dressed with olive oil and vinegar. And that's an Italian one. So I think my three favorite salads would be from France, Italy, and Greece, the Mediterranean. So let's start off with the traditional French salad. What was in that? So the main ingredients of the original French salad were tomatoes, artichoke hearts, one of my favorite things ever. And those would be marinated in something like olive oil with a little bit of salt and herbs. Then raw bell peppers, green or red typically, cucumbers, small olives, and then hard boiled eggs. So, and sometimes radishes. Then the dressing would be olive oil with a splash of red wine vinegar or salt and pepper, sometimes crushed garlic, etc. So the ingredients were always raw, fresh, and seasonal, typical of the Mediterranean diet in the south of France. It was meant to be simple, rustic, and to show off the produce of Provence and the Mediterranean area. So, as I mentioned, the original fish used was anchovies. Later, that was replaced or often replaced by tuna. So, these days, we'll use tuna in the Niçoise salad. So, this salad is higher in protein. It has more ingredients, a little more complex, but it's a great meal on its own. Then the Greek salad, I think one of my favorite of all time. The original Greek salad doesn't contain any kind of leaves or lettuce. It would be cucumber and partially peeled, perhaps it's a little less bitter, and then cut into thick half moon shapes. Tomatoes cut into wedges or large chunks. Red onion, which I usually pick out, don't use. Thin slices or rings of raw onion. Green bell pepper. Kalamata olives and feta cheese, usually added as a single block, not crumbled, and then you get to mix it in later. And then extra virgin olive oil on top, generously drizzled, some dried oregano and salt, perhaps some lemon juice. And then you get to mix it up. And if you mush that feta and mix it with the olive oil, it becomes this amazing creamy, salty dressing. So that's definitely one of my favorite salads. And it's so much easier and nicer, I think, without the lettuce or the leafy greens. And then the other one, the best, caprese salad. This one's an Italian salad. It's only got mozzarella, tomatoes, and basil leaves. So often the fresh tomatoes, the heirloom, the big lovely ones will be sliced, and then we'll use some kind of fancy mozzarella like buffalo mozzarella, a big ball of mozzarella in liquid, or the little balls, anything that's the freshly made mozzarella, and then you slice that and put it on top of the tomato slices, maybe a bit of salt first, and then you can put the fresh basil leaves on top of that. Sometimes they're stacked, sometimes they're placed diagonally, and sometimes you'll have little piles of piece of tomato, mozzarella, and a leaf. I sometimes like to cheat and add a little basil pesto as well. It's really good. Then you can add your olive oil on top, and as I said, a bit of salt. And the balsamic vinegar is apparently a modern addition, not part of the traditional caprese salad, but I do enjoy that, or some balsamic glaze even on top. And it looks so good as well, the red and the green, amazing. So that one's a celebration of the colors of the Italian flag, the red tomato, the white mozzarella, and the green basil. Very, very simple, but quality ingredients and tastes amazing. Strangely enough, my favorite combination at a particular restaurant we like to go to is a caprese salad with a couple of stacks with some tiny ribs, pork ribs. And the two seem to complement each other so well, although I'm sure the Italians wouldn't approve of that. Then the original mixed Italian salad would basically be mixed greens, so like arugula, romaine lettuce, radicchio, then tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, and carrots, interestingly, sometimes grated or chopped. And then olives would be optional, extra virgin olive oil, and balsamic vinegar or lemon juice, and then salt, sometimes some Italian herbs. So that's quite a common basic Italian salad. Then some more unusual salads that we don't often hear about. This one from Thailand is fascinating. As I mentioned earlier, the som tam, the green papaya salad. So you take green papaya and shred it, And then you'd add cherry tomatoes halved, green beans cut short, some chili and garlic, and then peanuts and dried shrimp. Very interesting. You must probably get that in cans. Some fish sauce and some lime juice. And that's all pounded together in a pestle and mortar, not just mixed. So you get all the flavor dimensions. You get the sweet, the sour, the salty, and the spicy. So this is a street food that they have, a national staple. Then in Mexico, the nopalito salad has cactus leaves that have been cleaned and boiled. Then tomatoes, onion, cilantro, and then fresh cheese, lime juice, and salt. Very interesting. And then the beet salad, beetroot from Russia, boiled beetroot, cooked potatoes, carrots, pickles or sauerkraut with peas, and then oil. That's a very different one as well. So we're more likely to eat the more common salads that you find in restaurants and that we're familiar with. One of the ways I love to make salad at home is with a lot of different things. I often don't use lettuce, as I said. So I would take a basic Greek salad. So the chopped cucumber, the chopped baby tomatoes. I would use some artichokes and chop those up, some feta cheese, and then I would add a little more unusual things like pine nuts. Those are amazing on a salad. And sometimes olives, and then perhaps peppers, red peppers, and then a sprinkle makes the salad more kind of thick and it can help with the creaminess. I would definitely add avocado. I forgot to mention that. And did I say feta? So then the sprinkle would be a combination of sesame seeds, salt, and then either Parmesan cheese or nutritional yeast. They both have a cheesy flavor. So then you take your coffee grinder and you add half sesame seeds, half nutritional yeast or Parmesan, and then about half a teaspoon salt. And you grind it all together into this little powder. You got to taste it to see if you need to add more of perhaps the Parmesan or the salt. And then that becomes your salad sprinkle. You keep it in the fridge, and every time you've made a salad, you sprinkle that on top, and then you mix with your olive oil, etc., and it adds this amazing texture to the salad. One of my favorite ways to have salad. And a potato salad, I'm not generally a fan of a cold potato salad, but if you bake your potatoes and you cut them up while they're still warm, and then you add some mayonnaise, some cooked red pepper, and then a little bit of celery for crunch, a little bit of salt, that makes an amazing warm potato salad. It's very good. So, what are your favorite salads? Do you lean the Italian, French, or Greek way? Do you like the feta or not? Do you like the olives or not? Do you like the mixed greens or not? Sometimes it's actually lovely to have a salad of only mixed greens, especially if you can get good quality ones or the baby greens. The mixed baby greens are amazing. They're very tender and gentle, and you can mix them up with a little olive oil and salt, and that's a perfect appetizer for a meal or to have between courses to help with digestion, as I said at the beginning. And it's a nice change from the really crunchy, chewy salad. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention that I love to add to salads is sprouts, broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts. Those also add a lot of nutrition and a fun texture and a good flavor. So happy salad making. If you enjoy salads, I hope this inspired you with some fresh ideas. And often I find if I just start making a salad, then I get inspired to finish it, even when I don't feel like making one, because it is a bit of work, isn't it? Sometimes I like to have a salad when everyone else is having a cooked meal. Oh, and I forgot to mention cooked ingredients. Obviously, you can do meat like chicken, etc., on your salad, but it's also amazing to add cooked vegetables. Butternut squash, chopped small and baked in the oven with olive oil. Little bits of zucchini baked in the oven or steamed, or even raw grated butternut squash is really nice on a salad. And then cooked peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers. Those are very, very nice. Even marinated after that makes an amazing addition to a salad. And then a variation, if you don't feel like a salad exactly, You can take some avocado and mash it up with a bit of salt and pepper if you like, and then cut cucumber sticks and carrot sticks and dip them in. Or if you have some hummus in your fridge and dip them in there, and it's close enough to a salad, but it's something different. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.